morning, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're here at the park doing a little casting for you guys. We're going to do a little fly casting 101, beginner stuff, starting from the beginning when you first get your first fly rod. It's a holiday weekend. Happy 4th of July, everybody. Hopefully you're staying safe out there. We didn't want to go fight the crowds up on the lakes or the streams or the rivers this weekend, so we just decided to come out here to the park and do a little practice with the fly rod. Hopefully you enjoy it and hopefully you learn something. We'll see you in a minute. Alright, when you're first going out there choosing a fly rod and everything, the best thing to choose for a new beginner is a 9'5" 5 weight, medium fast, moderate fast action rod. That's what we have here. We have an Elkhorn Traveler series that I bought quite a few years ago at a expo. Got a really good price on it, but it is an awesome rod. Casts really well, great for beginners. I've had my dad cast this rod, Kimberly cast this rod when she first started out. Great rod there, pretty good warranty as well. When you're first starting out, it's a lot easier to overline a rod than to use it as it is. So we got 5.5 weight line on this reel. I use it for some of my faster action rods, so you don't have to have so much line out when you're casting. Makes it picking up line a lot faster, quicker, and easier. It loads that rod so a new beginner can actually feel it. So now we're going to get into actual casting of a fly rod. Alright, when you're first starting out fly casting, it's better to not use your second hand. You just want to get the basics down of the cast before you start getting the other hand into it, trying to learn how to double haul and control that line. That's why we're here at a park that doesn't have a lake, because I think the biggest thing a lot of people do when they're trying to learn how to fly cast is they start out on a body of water. As fishermen, the minute you start fishing on a body of water and there's fish rising, or you see fish and you get all excited, you're going to start chasing those fish, and you're going to go, mechanics and learning are going to go right out the window. When I first started casting, I just practiced in a little culvert next to our green belt next to my house at the time, and I would just go there every day and just practice casting. Just tie on a little yarn or a little fly onto there, and I would just stand there all day and just practice my cast. It makes it a lot easier. I don't get caught up trying to catch fish. I don't learn bad mechanics because I'm so excited, you know, over fishing. So what we're going to do first is, you're going to get your line out in front of you and just practice picking the line up off the ground, coming back, stopping, and going forward and putting it back down. Don't try the actual mechanics of the cast. Come forward, put it back down. The biggest thing we want to learn here is the stop on the back. So when you come up, you want to come to a complete stop. A lot of people, a lot of new fishermen that come from spin casting, bait casting, even somebody that's never really fished before, they don't really get that stop on the back of their cast. So stop, come back. You're going to feel that rod come back, stop, load up, and then come forward. So back, stop, come forward. It's the biggest thing when you're fly casting is you always want hard stops. The speed of the cast itself doesn't really matter. When you get that hard stop back there, that's what's going to lay that line out behind you. So for the first couple times you take your fly rod out, just practice this right here. Pick up line, put it down. Pick up line, stop, come forward, stop, lay it down. Back, stop, forward, stop. There's a common myth in fly casting that, 10 and 2. So if you have a clock, and you have your noon here, you have your 12 o'clock here, 6 o'clock here, right? Your 10 and 2, like you'd put on your car, that they've always taught you drive at 10 and 2. It's the same thing with fly casting. Everybody always says 10, 2, 10, 2. That works, but not everybody's gonna sit there in their head 10, 2. So what I like to say is, as long as you have a hard stop in your cast, I could come back, I could do a 3-6. I could do, it doesn't really matter. And what would that be, 3-9?
3-9.
Yeah, I could do 3-9 and cast with barely any line out. I could do a 1, 11.
What if you can't tell time on a regular clock?
Learn how to tell time on a regular clock. It's a habit. I mean, come on now. Everybody's got a digital clock now or a phone. Still, learn how to tell time, people. Come on now. So 10, 2. The stop is more important than where you stop at. And another common misconception is never break the wrist when you're fly casting. Yes, that is a fact, but I can sit here and all I'm using is my wrist right now to make this cast. That's all I'm using. I'll stand this way so you can see. Hopefully. All I'm using is my wrist. My arm's not moving, and I'm casting just fine. So the never break your wrist myth is just out there so people get used to the cast. So now as you practice the stop, come forward, let it go down. You always, on the back cast to stop and the front cast to stop is the most important thing. A lot of people when they first start fishing, they'll do that. So you come back and stop, and then you just slap your rod on the water. We want to come back, stop, come forward, stop, and drop that line to the water. That's going to give you the most accurate cast. And accuracy in fly fishing is 10 times more important than distance. You know, like if you go somewhere on a small stream, or if you're fishing for anything really, and you're not accurately casting towards that fish, there's a good chance you're not going to catch that fish, no matter if you can cast, you know, 100 feet or if you can cast 30 feet. Accuracy is the most important thing. So once we get this down, we got our back cast stop, forward cast stop, drop to the water. Another basic thing to fly casting is the speed up to stop and the ability to hold the same speed forward and back. So what you see a lot of people do, they'll come up, they'll have a nice smooth back cast, and they'll come fast forward and stop. You want to be able to speed up to a stop at the same speed in both directions. That's going to keep you from throwing under loops. It's going to keep you from tangles. It's going to keep you from a lot of headaches out on the water. So when you pick up your line off the water, you want to speed up to a stop, come forward to a stop. Try to maintain the same speed. Don't try to force it forward. Don't try to force it back and then come forward slow, because you're going to end up throwing really loose loops or under loops. An under loop is when your fly actually goes under the line and it causes a lot of tangles. You can actually cast that way if you need to, like say you're throwing up under something, but that's way later on when you learn how to cast. But we want to come forward, stop, back, stop, and we want to maintain the same speed on both casts. You're not chucking this thing like you would, you know, a regular bait caster or spinning rod. You're not coming back with a lot of speed and then going forward slow. That's just going to cause open loops and under loops. So we want to keep that same speed, and you want to speed up to a stop. So accelerate, stop, accelerate, stop. That's going to be your best bet when you're out there fly casting and learning how to cast. Then we're going to do what's called feeding line, or letting line out. So when you come forward, you're actually going to let go of that line, and it's going to shoot a little bit of line out. So say you strip all the way in, come back, let a little bit of line out, come forward, let a bit of line out, and you're going to shoot that line. Shooting line is a very good technique to get your line out there, but it's going to take a little bit of practice, and once you have the cast down, you should be able to shoot that line out no problem. But we want to stay, when you're first starting out, first 6 months to a year of casting, you only want to have about 30 to 40 feet max of line out. Once you start getting more line than that out, that's when you start to have a lot of problems, a lot of issues with your casting stroke. You try to pick up too much line off the water, you're gonna
get tangled.
Get a lot of tangle. So wind knots. All right, so we got this position down. What's really a good thing to practice is, I call the wall technique, or the straight line technique. You want your rod tip to follow an imaginary straight line when you're casting. So if you come back at an angle and do, you know, your casting, all it's going to give you is a big old loop in there, and you're not going to get a good accurate cast. You're going to throw more tangles, you're going to throw more knots in your leader. So what I did when I first started learning how to cast is, there's a brick wall that was over by that ravine or green belt that I was practicing in. And what I would do is I'd take that rod tip and I'd put it right in line with the top of that wall, and I would come and follow that line back and forth, sideways. Because what that's going to do is it's going to give me the feeling of keeping that rod tip straight. So then when I come overhand, I'm going to keep that line tip following a straight line every cast, instead of doing, you know, we're not ribbon twirling here, you know. That is a technique to cast though, to get your line off the water real quick. but you can learn that later on. But you want to follow a straight line with that rod tip. And for a lot of people, it's a lot easier to cast sidearm than it is to cast overhead. Think of bait casting, spinning rods, anything like that. A lot of people learn how to throw sidearm before they learn how to throw overhead. So that's another great technique, is find a straight line and keep that rod tip traveling in a straight line when you're casting. That's going to keep your line in a straight line and keep you from throwing or under loops and wind knots into your line. All right, so now that you've been practicing your standard cast without bringing the line out, we're going to talk about your second hand here in line management. This is very important in fly casting, because if you look down at my feet, you will see that I have a ton of line all over my feet. If I hook the fish right now, there's a good chance that line's going to wrap around something. I'm going to lose that fish because I'm going to pop him off. So line management is very important. But we're just going to talk about using this hand right here to control this line. So now when you're casting, you're going to have your line in this hand over here just loosely, and you're just going to hold that line. So you're going to generate speed with your cast, and then when you go put it on the water, you're going to shoot it out. You notice there, that line, I was stepping on it when I went to cast. So always be cognizant of this line. Don't take too much line out in any given situation. So we're going to do our cast, we're going to build up line speed, and we're going to throw it. First thing you're going to do after you throw it, tuck that right back underneath your finger. Now you have control of that line. If a fish hit right now, you're able to set the hook, you're able to recast, do whatever you need to do. Always tuck that line. But we're not going to talk about double haul, single haul, anything right now. We're just going to use that line, hold it in our hand, and be able to shoot line out. You want to generate speed. By generating speed, that's how you're going to make longer casts. And to generate speed, we're going to make sure we stop on our forward and back casts. That's what loads the rod. That's what makes the rod work. If you're not stopping, you're not generating any speed. So you're not really going to throw a long cast. Now that same amount of line out, if I stop, all my line goes out. All right, famous caster Lefty Kreh always said, your line should not make any noise in the air. So if you hear like a regular cast, you can hear my shark skin line through my guide, but you can't hear the line in the air. What he's talking about is we're not throwing a whip. So you shouldn't hear that wishing sound or that whooshing sound through the air when you're casting. You want a smooth, delicate cast. Some of the best casters in the world, Joan Wolfe, April Vokley, all of them are women because they understand that delicacy of fly casting. You know, we try to put too much muscle and power into something, and you'll see I just pile casted that. Now if I come back smoothly, stop, go forward, now I threw a cast. So fly casting isn't about power. It's about understanding the mechanics of the cast. Always always stop. The biggest thing I can tell you, and Kimberly had a hard time learning this, and when I would say stop, is the stop of that fly rod. You want to come to a hard stop, hard stop, hard stop, hard stop. If I come back and then let it float, I'm going to drop that fly line behind me, I'm going to hit the water behind me, I'm going to spook fish, I'm going to get caught up in trees. Stop. Don't move that rod tip until you come forward.
I struggled. I thought the stop meant pause, not stop.
No, like you're hitting a brick wall. Oh, fish on. Just kidding, it was grass. All right, stop, forward, stop. And I struggled with this when I first started learning too. I'll do what was called the creep. I'll show you the creep. So you come back and stop, and then you start going forward before your rod loads up. You're gonna lose quite a bit of distance off your cast by doing that. So if I come back and stop, forward and stop, back stop, forward stop, I'm able to throw a lot more line out there.
And what exactly does it mean by your rod loading?
Okay, so like in fly casting, that fly out there typically doesn't weigh anything. So on a regular bait caster spinning rod, the weight of the lure is what loads up that rod to cast. On a fly rod, the line loads the rod. So like if you watch this thing, it's going to load up, which means it's going to bend. You're going to get a bend in the rod. If the rod's not loading, not bending, then it's not going to throw that line forward. So the loading of the rod is that, like, you can feel it most of the time. You can feel come back, and then that rod, you can feel it the moment that line hits its back of its peak, it's going to load this rod up. It's going to flex this rod. If it's not loading, then you're not getting a good cast. All right, once we get the casting stroke down, we really want to work on our accuracy. You really want to be able to hit like a dinner plate, 12 or 14-inch dinner plate at any distance you're going to be fishing to. You can always make that harder, put smaller objects out there as you get better at casting. But accuracy is your most important thing. And the hardest thing to do with accuracy is not just throw your rod tip down at something. You're not throwing a baseball. Even if you were throwing a baseball, you always want that follow through. So you stop it and then let it fall. And that's going to give you your most accurate cast. Stop, let it fall. Stop, let it fall. Wind's picking up a little bit, makes it a little bit harder to be accurate even at these short distances. But you want to be able to stop that cast and control it instead of casting directly at something. This rod isn't the most accurate rod that we own, so it takes a little bit of practice with it. But practicing your accuracy is the most important thing, because let's say you're fishing a small stream, a river, a creek, whatever, and let's say there's a fish rising next to that tree. So we got a fish over there rising next to that tree, so we got to make an accurate cast over by it. That cast right there is not going to get me bit. I'm about 4 feet out from that tree. It's just not going to happen. Now, if we throw a more accurate cast, get it right up next to that tree, so that cast there, right next to that tree, good chance that fish is going to bite that fly. Not a good cast, right up into that tree. That's going to get us our best chance of catching that fish. So accuracy over everything. You can throw, an 80-foot cast all day long, but if you're throwing an 80-foot cast and it's 10 feet off the mark, you're not going to catch that fish. So you want to practice your accuracy. And the easiest way to practice your accuracy is actually by using the method of holding the line in one hand and casting with the other. You can do it, one-handed. It's just a little bit harder to feed line out that way. So we're going to get it, drop it right in there on top of that cup. Right, theoretically a fish. Or put it into the tree. Drop it out. That's your natural presentation. Sometimes that's the only way a fish will eat is, if you drop it in their line of... Fish typically feed in a line, like a crease, and they don't want to leave that line because they're burning energy to eat something, unless it's a big fly or they're eating terrestrials or something like that. They typically stay in the line that they're in. So if you can't make a cast accurately into that line that they're feeding, you're not going to catch that fish. That's why accuracy is the most important thing when it comes to fly casting. Alright, so that's pretty much the basics of fly casting. Remember, always start out just enough line out of that reel, about 20 to 30 feet, and practice that stop, forward, stop, back, stop. You want to get the feel of that rod loading up. Don't worry about the size of your loops. Your tighter loops are going to come with practice. Like, you can open up your loops by the way you cast. Like if you look at the loop now, it's super open. Or you can tighten it up by speeding up, but you always want to get that stop in there. That is the most important part of fly casting. Alright, so thank you everybody for joining us. Hopefully you guys learned something. Hopefully, when you get a fly rod out there, you practice. Stay off the water for the first couple trips out with your fly rod. It's going to help you immensely when it comes to casting. Go to a local park, go anywhere. Just practice that simple forward and back and stop. always stop. Thank you again, everybody. Please subscribe to the channel. Please like this video. Drop a comment down below if you guys want to see any other videos. Probably do another video on the double haul, the single haul, roll casting. That's stuff that we're going to do once we get out onto the water, though. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of our other videos. Tell your friends and family about us. We'll see you out on the water again here soon. Next weekend we should be back out on the water trying to catch some fish here in Arizona. So enjoy your weekend. You guys stay safe out there and have a wonderful day.